Well, y'all, it keeps getting worse and worse and worse for Letitia James, except for today. What she did may have sealed her fate from here on out. So here's what's going on, just to bring you up to speed really quick. And then in this video, she gave a public speech. And what she said in that speech just screwed herself big time. And her being the New York Attorney General, she had to know that what she said today on that stage would seal her fate. So let me catch you up real quick. And I also want to let you hear and see what President Trump had to say. He was hosting the president of South Africa, and Letitia James, or her mortgage fraud situation, was brought up. And that happened today. And when you hear what Trump had to say, you're going to laugh. And then when you hear what Letitia James had to say, you're going to realize it's over for her. So to catch you up real quick, it's two properties that we're talking about. One is a 5-unit property in Brooklyn, New York. Now, the issue is that on her mortgage loan application, she listed the property as a 4-unit. The reason why that's a problem is because in New York, a 5-unit property is considered commercial. Anything that's 4 units or less can be considered residential. Now, commercial property, residential property, the rates are totally different. And apparently she was working into a federal program to get more favorable rates. So she listed the dwelling as a 4-unit building. So not only did she fraudulently misrepresent that on the loan application, also on her insurance for the property, even though every piece of documentation shows that property in Brooklyn is 5 units. Okay. Now, the other issue she's having right now is of a Norfolk, Virginia property that she and her niece, Shanice, who also has children, Shanice, I guess, was looking for a place to stay. So Letitia James decided that she would take out a mortgage on a property in Norfolk, Virginia for her niece. Here's the kicker. In New York, it is illegal. You cannot be the New York Attorney General and live in another state. So in the Norfolk, Virginia property, when she listed that as her primary residence, which she did because it was also a part of a federal program to get much more favorable rates. I want to say as low as like 2.7%. Now, in the mortgage loan application, she put down that she hereby certifies that this will be her primary residence. Only problem is it's not. So she lied on the loan application, and what she's hanging her hat on is that she submitted an email to the mortgage broker that said, hey, listen, that property in Norfolk, that's not my primary residence, okay? She sent this email 2 weeks after the loan application had already been submitted. Even though on the loan application, on the power of attorney, she clear as day states it's an individual isolated line on the sheet that says, I hereby represent that this will be my primary residence. She authorized that. And then she also lied on her insurance applications for that property. Here's where it gets even worse. Now, in this video, you're going to hear Letitia James step on stage and put her foot in her own mouth. You're also going to hear what President Trump had to say, because he was asked while hosting the president of South Africa about this Letitia James situation. And Trump is always good for a one-liner or a good laugh. And he puts it right in her face. And we're going to get into that. But another thing that makes these fraudulent situations that much worse is that Letitia James leveraged her position as the New York Attorney General to make her employees, the people that work under her, witness the applications that she lied on. So she took her deputy attorney general and had her be a witness to the fraudulent crime being committed with these applications. So now with the subpoenas that went out, the FBI, the DOJ, they've subpoenaed Letitia James, the mortgage companies who did the loan, her employees that fraudulently witnessed her doing it, the insurance companies, they're all over the place, even the tenants of the property that she rents out. Come to find out, the attorney general is also a slumlord. Now, here's something that's really ironic. Letitia James prosecuted Donald Trump for the so-called mortgage fraud case, 46 days after she lied on her Norfolk, Virginia loan application. And the thing with the Trump case, in case you may not have known, that Mar-a-Lago property is worth closer to $1 billion, is much closer to $1 billion than it is to being worth $100 million. So this property that's worth $500 million or more is considered a museum in Mar-a-Lago down in Florida. In New York, the attorney general and the judge, Edgeron, decided that they felt like the property was worth only $18 million. And remember, the lender of President Trump's property said that they love doing business with him. He paid the debt back and with interest and on time, if not early. They also said they'd love to do business with him again in the future. So when this case it came up before the Supreme Court because President Trump obviously appealed it, and he's appealing it and appealing it. When Letitia James prosecutors went before the Supreme Court, they asked, has a case like this ever where there was no victim, no complaint from the actual lender, neither of the parties that participated complained, has there ever been a case where someone was being prosecuted for a victimless crime? You know what they said? No. So what Letitia James, they've taken cases that are not criminal at all and created crimes, just like with the Alvin Bragg case. They literally took a misdemeanor, recreated statutes that had passed the statute of limitations and turned it into a felony, and then gave it 34 counts because he paid his lawyer 34 times. So because President Trump paid his lawyer and his accountant or bookkeeper listed it as legal fees, they said, oh, that's 34 counts, because they feel that every time President Trump paid his attorney, that was a violation, because it shouldn't have been listed as legal fees. It should have been listed as personal payments, even though he was the president's lawyer. And if you remember, that lawyer was prosecuted and sent to prison for perjury, lying before the grand jury. And this is the same lawyer who they brought out to testify during the Trump case with Stormy Daniels. So this is the most outrageous thing in the world. But without further ado, let's get off into listening to what Letitia James had to say. And then we're going to listen to what President Trump had to say about Letitia James. If you're enjoying this video, do me a solid, hit those thumbs up for me, because I'll never ask you for a cash out or a super chat, but you hitting that like button, it really helps the channel, helps spread the information out. And if you aren't subscribed to the channel, subscribe. And then once you do, just hit that notification bell and select all. That way you'll be notified when I upload new videos.
As you know, we filed a lawsuit against Donald Trump and his family. We secured $454 million judgment against him, which is on appeal. The case is on appeal. I have no idea when that case will be decided. This investigation into me is nothing more than retribution. It's baseless. It has to do with the fact that on a power of attorney, I mistakenly indicated that I was a state of Virginia, but prior to that, I had indicated to the mortgage broker that, in fact, in bold cap letters, that I am not a resident of Virginia and never will be. And in the mortgage application, I indicated that I would not live in Virginia and I was not a resident. They just took the power of attorney and they're using that as a basis for enforcement for their investigation, when in reality, the power of attorney was never used to determine my eligibility for a mortgage for my niece for a home in the state of Virginia. My niece who has children, and because I love it on, I wanted her to have a home.
Now, you just heard Letitia James publicly state that, yeah, she made a mistake signing that loan, that mortgage application, saying it would be her primary residence. Then she said she notified the broker. She did, but it was in an email that had nothing to do with that application itself. It's not recorded with the documentation for the application. The lender wouldn't care about her sending an email saying, hey, now that's not, I made a mistake, y'all. That's not my primary residence. And then just proceed with the loan anyway. She wouldn't have been eligible for the rates, the favorable rates in the federal program that she utilized for this property. So this is crazy that the New York State Attorney General prosecuted a former president for a quote unquote mortgage fraud while committing mortgage fraud herself all over the place. These Democrats are crazy. It's like Fani Willis prosecuting President Trump while sleeping with her special prosecutor that she's paying $1 million to, who had never litigated a RICO case ever. Even though there were far more qualified attorneys within her office and within Fulton County that could have helped her with this case. Nope. She took a boyfriend of hers that she had been dating for a year prior to this case, lied and said that they weren't dating. Then when they found out about the money and the lavish trips that they were taking, tried to say that she keeps money in her mattress like a drug dealer, that she's just saved up all her life because her daddy taught her, don't let no man pay for your stuff and you keep your money in a mattress, as if banks don't exist. But you are the Attorney General for Fulton County, Georgia. Isn't it crazy? Now, with all this melee going on, let's check out what President Trump had to say, because you already know Trump is always good for a good one-liner. And check this out too. It's almost like 2025 is the year of exposure. We got the Joe Biden cover up for the mental decline and the cancer that came out. We got Jake Tapper, a mainstream media member, coming out here hawking a book of the same propaganda that he was pushing. And now he's trying to act like he was a victim like the rest of America was, even though we could see. And so it's one of two things. Either these people are flat out liars or they're horrible of judgment. Their judgment is terrible and they should never be allowed to run, lead, or judge anything. If they couldn't tell that Joe Biden was mentally declining. They may not have known he had the cancer, but you for doggone sure could tell that the man wasn't all the way there. And then they want to leverage him with President Trump. Everybody say, oh, when I talk to Trump, he's having issues. Bull crap. Just like this case, Letitia James keeps wanting to level this out like her and Trump were somehow, are different, where his was so bad and, hers was just a mistake. Even though when President Trump tried to state the fact that, hey, he don't even handle his books. He's a billionaire that owns international conglomerates. He paid people to handle that. They said, oh, no. Since it is your information, it's your business, it's your responsibility. But she's going to try to downplay her participation and her role in it. But you're the attorney general, highly educated from Howard University, right? And remember her favorite slogan, no one is above the law, including you, Letitia James. Now, what they did do is they made a statue in her honor down in New York. I don't know if y'all saw that, the big 12-foot tall Sasquatch looking statue of the lady standing with her hands on her hips looking like she was about to say, what you doing? That was a Letitia James honor, allegedly. But let's get into what President Trump had to say.
Your thoughts on Letitia James, Director Polte, according to him, Letitia James says that the alleged mortgage fraud was simply a mistake. I want to get your thoughts on that. She put down that her father was her husband in order, and this is very similar to, I guess, the false accounts they have on here.
Well, I don't know what it is currently, but Letitia James, who's the Attorney General of New York State, it seemed, I'm not involved in that at all. I know that it's being handled by various groups, I guess, but it's major fraud, mortgage documents and fraudulent everything. I think she said the father was her husband, which she had to have a husband, so she chose her father, and she put it down, and she had didn't she sign in Virginia? Yet she said she lived in Virginia, yet she's the New York State Attorney General. She did that for tax reasons, so she could take advantage of taxes. And she had the wrong number of units. She had a much different number, which wouldn't have allowed her to qualify and scam the government. So I don't know. I think she's very bad for New York, but I really don't know too much about it, but I appreciate the question. Thank you very much. Yes.
There's no genocide.
What's funny is how President Trump just kind of detailed out what I was telling you, the 5 units, it's a 4 unit, the Norfolk, Virginia primary residence, even though it's not. Then he says, I don't really know much about it, though. Got to leave that to my people. He knows about that. He is sitting back there in his mind saying, get him, Pam. Get him, Cash. No, not Cash. That's the FBI. But get him, DOJ. Go after them, Pam. Do what you do. Rightfully so. They put that man through HE double hockey sticks, and you know it. And it's all because of what he's doing right now. They knew that if he got back in this seat, he was going to right the wrongs of the Biden administration and previous administration. He's going to restore law and order. He's going to shut our borders down and make sure that illegal immigrants don't pour across like they had been. He's going to make sure our police officers be treated with the respect that they deserve while they're out here protecting and serving our communities. He's going to make sure that American businesses come back to America and benefit the American people with jobs and with their tax revenue. He's making sure that the trade deals, no longer is America getting screwed, even though we're the superpower purchaser. We're getting treated like we're some weak country that's barely buying goods. No, we're the 800-pound gorilla in the room and needed to be respected as such. We got China that has $1 trillion trade deficit, meaning they send their goods over here, make $1 trillion to fund and take care of their military and their economy. And we don't benefit from any of those dollars, not tax-wise or any-wise, even though China refuses to allow us to sell our goods into their markets at all. So that's why it's $1 trillion trade deficit. What politician sat up and said, hey, China, sell your stuff here, take all your money home, build up your economy, build up your military. Oh, and by the way, I forgot that you are our our enemy, our adversary, our competition on the global stage, keep taking $1 trillion a year from us to build yourself up and make yourself that much more competitive with us. You know that was some politician whose palms were being greased by some Chinese lobbying group to screw America over. It's done. Same thing in the UK or in Canada. Canada's selling all types of goods over here, but we couldn't sell our beef. We can't sell our agriculture products over there. And yet we're subsidizing Canada to the tune of $250 billion a year. We give Canada $250 billion every year. Why? Nobody has still justified why that is. Oh, and by the way, our military is on layaway for them. Whenever they need us to go fight for them, we got that too. And that's why everybody, oh, tariffs. They knew that President Trump was going to right the wrongs. So they tried to box him in. Letitia James, Fannie Willis, Jack Smith, and Alvin Bragg. Those four, they had him boxed in. All the cases dropped in 2023, even though these were for quote unquote alleged crimes that predated 2021. But they waited because they thought they could avoid what's happening now. And for Letitia James to commit mortgage fraud 46 days before prosecuting President Trump lets you know she never thought she'd be caught. She thought that Kamala Harris or Joe Biden was going to win, and she would just ride off into the sunset. Well, guess what, Big Tish? You got another thing coming, because the Trump train is about to run you right over, and rightfully so. So I just wanted to bring that to you and let you see that the Attorney General has confessed publicly that she did it, but she just calls it a mistake. So we're going to see if they mistakenly convict her and lock her up like she tried to get President Trump locked up. And another thing, what they did, Governor Hochul, anybody in New York that votes that governor back in is a fool, because she set up a bill that would have had a slush fund in it, a $10 million slush fund that New York politicians can use if they're being prosecuted by the Trump administration. And they say, oh, this is retribution, as if two things can be right at the same time. Yeah, Trump may want some get back, but it's not unwarranted. It's only where crimes have been committed. So if you committed a crime and you know you tried to come after them, get ready. Get ready, because they're coming. So they act like as if you can't prosecute a Democrat because they screwed over Trump. You can't do that because it seems like revenge. There was one congresswoman or senator, excuse me, her name slips my mind, but she literally, when she spoke to Kash Patel, wanted him to swear that no members of the FBI would even be investigated. She literally said FBI members should not fear investigation. What? So you want him to, anybody that investigated January the 6th could not be investigated. What? Just because they're an FBI agent? Oh no, that's bullcrap. Anybody that is suspected of doing wrong should be prosecuted. Remember, Democrats, remember Big Tish, remember Senator June. Nobody is above the law. And we're going to ride by that. So I just wanted to bring this to you. Thank you. If you stayed and you watched it this far, leave a comment. Tell me what you think about it. Should they lock her up and throw away the key? Let me know. Most importantly, though, make sure you remember to hit the like button if you didn't. Subscribe to the channel, and you be safe and you stay great. I'm Brian Maxwell saying I look forward to seeing you at the top. Over and out, y'all.